Distinguished members of the academic colleagues, I'm a postgraduate student majoring in educational leadership and management at School of Educational Science in Nanjing Normal University. It's a very good pleasure for me to be able to attend this conference. As you all know, under the impact of the epidemic, the future of educating our youth around the world is a matter of great concern. But how can we possibly prepare for new realities in school management after COVID-19? Today, I'm going to give a talk on the endogenous development of school culture in the perspective of moral leadership. My presentation will be in 4 parts. Firstly, introduction. I'm going to look at the background and construction of core concepts. The second part relates to the logical basis, and the third part concerns the dilemma and obstacles. Finally, I'd like to put forward expectations to improve the situation. The first point I'd like to make is the background and purpose of my presentation. In the context of high-quality development of education, practicing the fundamental task of establishing moral integrity in cultivation and building a modern school culture system with Chinese characteristics is not only a requirement of educational governance modernization, but also an important support to maintain the vitality of educational organizations. However, at present, through a vision of relational being, how to combine the endogenous development of moral leadership with school culture has not attracted enough attention. So, I try to examine the organizational mechanism of school culture construction and development from the perspective of moral leadership and dig into the internal advantages of school culture in order to enhance the endogenous development ability of school culture and promote the healthy development of school management mechanism. Now, here is how the core concepts to be constructed. The term endogenous was originated from the field of biology. In 1975, the United Nations report on Future of the World formally proposed the concept of endogenous development. That is, the comprehensive development of people can only be promoted from within of a society. According to relevant research in China, which is mainly focused on endogenous path construction and mechanism, we know that the key to endogenous development of school culture is changing the external force into conscious action of the school. It takes the reform and innovation of the school management department as driving force, stimulating the willingness and vitality derived from the independent growth of school organization or groups in the process of self-orientation, and then forming the school cultural characteristics with development prospects, so the organization members can realize all-round development with humanity. The social and ecological benefits of the school system can also achieve coordinated development. Next, the academic discussion of the word moral leadership constitutes a collective concept like a basket. Initially, Western studies defined the moral leadership as behavioral theory and character theory. Then, Saravani built a native framework of moral leadership. He redefined leadership with moral authority, and he advocated for virtuous schools by establishing covenant and proposed service leadership as a housekeeper. When it comes to the concept of moral leadership at the background of Chinese education, the principal is the moral leader. Moral leadership is the principal's intelligent educational organization ability in the process of school management and education. When facing with organizational conflict, the principal will awaken the emotional healing of organizational members with true self and lead organizational change with a transcendental spirit. This leads me to my next point. The endogenous development of school culture in the perspective of moral leadership is based on the internal logical basis. The two jointly point to the common development of the school organization members. Taking that as a starting point, I build a logical diagram. First, value logic. The value community built by the moral leadership is the basis for the realization of the conscious renewal of cultural resources. Kant believes that any action for moral process must be taken under correct belief. Based on the common concept of school organization, the headmaster realizes the self-optimization of school cultural resources by sharing the vision and establishes the school value community by relying on moral leadership. Then the endogenous development of school culture can be followed. Moreover, the generation of common vision is a dynamic process in line with the law of endogenous development. Due to the turbulence and the changes of the environment, the vision of the school is not invariable, but always in a state of continuous harmony and renewal. This is consistent with the transformative role of self-orientation of endogenous development. The principal's dynamic exposition of educational ideas from the perspective of transformation is also a process for the organization members to realize self-development and self-growth, and ultimately contributes to the formation and renewal of school culture. Second, ethical logic. Moral concern is the basis for teachers and students to actively participate in construction of school culture. School as a micro-social organization where the relationship is complex. The focus on relationship is in line with the vision of moral concern. As Carl Gilligan said, personal relationship is the moral starting point. Moral leadership pays attention to group relationship, meaning generation, subject differences, and other elements, and then guides different individualists to care about each other. All the above are the basis for the endogenous and harmonious development of school culture. A study has found that moral leadership has a significant impact on employees' innovative behavior. When the principal gives up control in many aspects, it especially pays attention to the differences of vulnerable groups and marginalized groups, and creates a very favorable condition for their development by cultivating their self-development potential and competitiveness. The spiritual joint force within the organization will be formed and maintained. All the school will become a cultural community, integrating the humanistic spirit and value ethics, and promote the role of nurturing people. Third, practice logic. Moral leadership makes the endogenous school culture better grounded in school education. Here comes to a question: how moral leadership transforms the endogenous school culture from ideal construction to practical action. When the principals participate in the operation of school culture as leaders, there is no doubt that the way of leadership will penetrate into the practice of school culture construction. When the moral leadership runs through the construction of school culture, the sublimation of value logic and ethical logic will become true. From value to practice, the generation of common value is based on encouraging personal vision. The principles formulation of the school vision and the measures taken to realize the vision, including various incentive behaviors for teachers and students, make the common vision gather individual forces. From ethics to practice, the endogenous development of school culture is a participatory construction, which emphasizes the independent power of grassroots organization in the school, and also coincides with the respect and humanistic care emphasized by moral leadership. In the specific behavior of serving the members of the organization, the headmaster makes it possible to realize the endogenous development of school culture. In this logic, value logic is the basis of the concept level, and the ethical logic is the basis of the sense of participation of teachers and students. As shown in the diagram, value logic and ethical logic jointly point to the practical logic to realize the completion and sublimation from ideal construction to practical action. Right, then, combined with the practical dilemma, I'm going to summarize the obstacles faced by the endogenous development of school cultures. That is, the lack of initiative, subjectivity, and autonomy. First, in the stage of generation and internalization of school culture, the initiative of connotation release is not enough. The reason why the school culture construction cannot form the power of endogenous development of fundamentally lies in lack of core values. The reason behind is the utilitarian manipulation of the external system of school culture. Taking China as an example, for a long time, school construction has followed the exogenous catch-up strategy. Under the government-led resource allocation model, it is easy to strengthen the practical logic of external system supply of school culture. It is believed that all knowledge production activities can be planned. Due to less attention, or at least not enough attention, to the origin and the internality of school traditional culture, the school cultural resources expose the problem of weak expression. That is, the lack of internalization initiative of school culture and the separation of endogenous. Second, during the stage of establishment and preservation of school culture, the subjectivity of organization members is missing. The key to enhancing the effectiveness of endogenous school culture is to explore the purpose of creating this culture. That is, the original problem of for whose culture. The answer is for the whole school teachers and students. One of the main reasons for the lack of subjectivity is the excessive deduction of the principal's leadership, which presents the cultural construction mode of principal official or principal individual contract. In fact, the headmaster culture is not equal to the school culture. If the headmaster carries out the centralized culture only by self-direction, how the collective life of the school can be realized? Obviously, it will form the world of everyone against everyone, as Thomas Hobbes said. We need to ensure that the development of the whole campus culture is dominated by teachers and students at the school. Third, in the stage of inheritance and correction of school culture. There is a lack of organizational groups autonomy. Autonomy in endogenous development refers to giving full play to participation of internal groups and reflecting the democratic will of the school members groups with the help of grassroots organizations participating in the decision-making process. One of the important aspects is to ensure the professional autonomy of academic organizations. However, in China, the strength of such grassroots organizations in schools is relatively weak at present. The most extensive representative ones are student unions, faculty committees, party and league organizations, etc. In addition, in the organization culture of the colleagues, professional autonomy is inferior to bureaucratic management. When we overemphasize the bureaucratic, technical, and relational authority, and seriously ignore the professional and moral authority, the radiation and the influence of school culture will be limited and weakened. We'll adjust the discussion. This ties in with my original statement. How can we prepare for new realities in school management after COVID-19? Here, I try to put forward 3 transformation paths in order to make the moral leadership become a practical driving force for the endogenous development of school culture. First, from exogenous to connotation, the heart of leadership stimulates the value identity, cultivate the school culture ecology. According to Sanjivani, the heart of leadership means the principal's personal vision and the inner world composed of his beliefs, values, and ideals. First, within the school, we should change the hard governance mode under the administrative control to shape the endogenous cultural development paradigm. Second, we should effectively break the school barriers and establish the development concept of school culture ecological group construction. For example, through the group school construction mode, give full play to the brand advantages of the old school and the central school. Let individuals or groups with different academic backgrounds and ways of thinking carry out the consultation and dialogue, break the artificial closed barrier, and promote the cross-integration and mutual penetration of the school's traditional culture and modern ideological trend. Second, from homogeneity to pluralism, the brain of the leadership changes from centralization of power to wisdom and promotes the collaborative construction of multiple subjects. As Sanjivani said, the brain of leadership is connected with mind maps and practical experience, and combined with managers' reflection on the situation to form the basis of leadership decision making. First, we should further promote the reform of separating the management, screening, and evaluation, and give schools more autonomy. Second, follow the law of endogenous development of school culture. Correct the organizational system in which the principal's governance fully replaces the co-construction of teachers and students, so as to improve the ability of promoting the construction by evaluation of the school culture. Third, from separation to linkage. The head of leadership promotes the relational cooperation and strengthens the internal and external sharing of school culture. Kenneth Jurgen regards relationship as a process of continuous coordination and believes that all meaningful actions are joint actions, and finally eliminates the separation of traditional boundaries. by understanding the world in quest of the relationship between people. In the perspective of moral leadership, it is necessary to establish such a relational thinking. The principal activity shares the concept and value of the cultural construction with teachers and uses the hand of leadership to promote the sharing of cultural resources. Opportunity always beside with challenge. I hope that my presentation today can arouse a wider attention in promoting schools' healthy management. Here is my reference. Well, if there are any questions, you may contact me by email. Thanks for your attention.